Hey everybody, I'm Sammy Gibbons, a reporter with the USA Today Network Wisconsin, bringing you today's Coronavirus 5 and 5. I also have a cat, so you might see the cat make appearances like that. And this is a 5-minute rundown we're doing of 5 of the top stories by our entire network of journalists across the state who continue to report on the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, yesterday there was an election. So in the midst of this historic pandemic, we also had a historic election. While many states opted out, Wisconsin did not succeed in pushing back the election. Governor Tony Evers did push and briefly announced that it would be pushed back to June, but the state Supreme Court overruled that and the election did take place. And it looked very different than any election has before. Poll workers and voters alike wore masks. There were plexiglass barricades built and constant sanitation of the polling places all over the state. Some people reported never receiving their absentee ballots. So many came and felt they were forced to risk their lives, as many of our reporters heard when they were on the scene, particularly in Milwaukee, where the number of polling places shrunk to just 5. Milwaukee and Green Bay, some people even waited over 3 hours. There were still people lined up until 11 p.m. last night. Clerks issued 1.3 million ballots to those who requested absentee ballots, but many, like I said, did not receive them. The deadline to count those was extended until Monday, so that's when results will start to roll in. People across the state took to polls, but some reluctantly. Many protested, particularly on social media, saying people would die from showing up in person to this election. In Milwaukee, there's one photo of a person holding up a sign that says, "This is ridiculous." But also many said that to practice their democracy, they wouldn't dream of not voting in person. As I mentioned, Green Bay voters faced very long waits just to cast their ballots. That was in part because the city shrunk from their typical 31 polling places to just 2. Today, USA Today Network Wisconsin reporter Haley B. Miller wrote that the city accepted help from just one National Guard member and rejected any further assistance from the National Guard. The city clerk said they have plenty of people. There were about 50 poll workers and 10 volunteers. The village of Alloway actually did have 4 National Guard volunteers, even though the mayor of Green Bay said that Green Bay, Alloway, and Hobart did not need the extra help. The city shrunk their usual polling sites from 31 to 2, like I said, so many people complained of very long waits. There were also issues with practicing social distancing at the various locations. City officials had pushed to postpone the election, even suing state officials. The mayor himself participated in suing state officials to postpone the election, but that was eventually shot down. We also have a story up on all of our sites across the USA Today network about how people with eating disorders may struggle during this pandemic, and particularly with isolation. There's stories popping up all over social media warning about things like the COVID-25 or the coronavirus 15. It's much like what you've probably heard with the freshman 15, when new college students start school and suddenly have all the freedom to do what they want. Now people are saying that, being stuck in homes close to our refrigerators, being afraid of the pandemic will possibly make people eat bingy and not necessarily exercise as much. So people are saying, try out new workout routines and eat these healthy meals. But experts are saying things like that could actually trigger people with eating disorders or potentially spark disordered eating in people who are not diagnosed with eating disorders. It's actually completely biologically normal. Experts from Evolve Healing told me when we're in a state like this where our bodies trick ourselves to think we're